Hey, hi everyone. This is Shlomo Errol here with KL Realty, your favorite real estate agent. And today I actually have a very special guest that I've been working for the last few years now on many transactions, and I'm happy to have him with me. Patrick Loftus with Loftus Law. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm awesome.
Good. Perfect. Patrick and me have been working for a while now, and there isn't a real estate attorney, and I always suggest you get one. Either you're a buyer or either you're a seller. It's your highest priority is to get an attorney. So the first question I'm gonna ask you, Patrick, is why do we need an attorney, and especially real estate attorney?
Well, you need an attorney in this transactions because you're spending a lot of money.
Right.
And there's a lot of money at stake before and after the transaction. And if you don't have someone there to help you do the due diligence necessary to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into, it's going to end up costing you money.
Right.
Now, on top of that, it's important that you hire someone that understands the issues that are involved when you buy and sell real estate. Because if you just hire someone that handles divorces or criminal defense or insurance defense, they're probably a good attorney. I say probably.
Hopefully.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
But just like I would probably miss out on a lot of issues in a divorce case because I don't handle divorce, a divorce attorney is likely to miss out on a lot of the issues that are involved in a real estate transaction. And missed issues are expensive.
Right. Okay, so perfect. So, get a real estate attorney, not just an attorney. And I have experience before, but we're not going to go there. So every contract, or when you're buying a property or when you're selling a property, there is a time that you get to the attorney review, which after you go under contract and both the seller and the buyer agree on a certain price, then you go to a period of what you call attorney review. So what is really happening there? This is pretty much where you come very handy, or pretty much where you do most of your work. Yeah.
Well, attorney approval, there's really two things that we're doing. We're reviewing the contract and making sure that everything in there is what is expected.
Right.
But where we really start to get into some pretty heated negotiations are with respect to the inspection.
Right.
Now, if you're a seller, your buyer is going to have the property inspected by a professional real estate inspector.
Okay.
And that professional real estate inspector is being paid by the buyer. So guess what? They're going to find all sorts of nonsense that you won't even want to consider as far as the condition of the property. They're going to say, oh, the furnace is too old, the air conditioner's too old, the hot water heater's too old. And you're going to think to yourself, I've got heat, I've got cold air, and I've got hot water. Where are you coming from with all this? And then the buyer's going to panic and ask you for thousands of dollars in concessions.
Right.
We're not going to let that happen. So, a couple of examples. One would be on a transaction that I had earlier this year where I got a letter from the buyer asking for $5,000 in closing cost credit. That is a lot of money. Now, I looked through this inspection report and I said to myself, yeah, I'm not seeing it. I don't even see anywhere near this amount of money.
Okay.
So I talked to my client and I explained, in the way I like to explain things, that this is just a number that we're not even going to get involved with.
Right.
Instead, I'm going to call the attorney for the buyer and I'm going to explain that we're not even going to negotiate off that number. So I did. I called the attorney and I said, look, there's nothing in this report that justifies the number that your buyer's asking for. What gives? And the attorney looked at it and said, actually, I happen to agree with you. So I got a letter the next day asking instead for $1,500, which was still too much, but that's something we could deal with in terms of a negotiation, and we got past it. Now, on the other hand, on the other side of things, I always like to make sure that we're looking at the transaction from a global perspective. We don't want to just win this negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get to the best result. So, for example, there's another transaction I had not too long after the one I just described to you, where the buyer asked for $3,000.
Okay.
Now, again, totally unreasonable. However, there were a couple of things outside of the specific inspection negotiation that were important. One was that in both the seller and the agent's opinion, the buyer had agreed to an above market price.
Okay.
So losing this buyer could have had the result of the next offer being at less and the net result being worse for the seller.
Right.
Now, the second thing that was important to know is that the downstairs unit that was exactly the same but a little bit nicer was about to go on the market for about $5,000 less asking than what this buyer had agreed to. So because of those two situations being in play, we ended up agreeing to the $3,000 even though it was more than really the inspection justified, because the result for the client was better.
You pretty much would lose the buyer and you go to, step one, like putting the property on the market again to other buyers, or taking a lower offer from like a back offer, one of the back offers.
Yeah, had we been focused on the wrong things, the seller would lose his money, and that's not the situation I want my seller to be in.
Okay, so continuing the same line of the attorney review time or period, which sometimes it's 5 days, but it can be 10 days, 15 days or more, depends on how fast you're really agreeing on everything. You did mention a buyers, so how do you really protect the buyer on that case, or what are you looking for when you're helping a buyer?
When I'm helping a buyer, the period between contract and closing, and especially the attorney approval period, that's where we get to do our due diligence. You don't want to just plunk down $400,000 and not know what you're getting.
Right.
You've been inside the unit, you sort of know what's up, but we need to make sure what's happening with the taxes. We need to make sure what's happening with the association.
Right.
So to that end, we're going to be asking for association documents and disclosures. What we want to make sure is that there's no special assessments pending or being considered, because if they are, we need to get the seller either to pay them or to set aside money. In some instances, that's easy because it will say right in the disclosures that we have an upcoming special assessment and here's how much it's going to be, in which case that makes my job kind of easy.
Right.
Easier.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not that simple. And that's where we want to dig in deeper and look at the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes are an outline of what was discussed at each meeting. And often they will be talking about potential special assessments, potential work needing to be done.
Right.
And we can from there evaluate what that work's going to cost and does the association have enough money?
Right.
If not, then we need to get the seller to either pay it or set aside money. And a great example is a transaction you and I worked on a couple of years ago. We had some disclosures that indicated there was a problem. Now, the problem, not to get into too much detail, involved a dispute between the owner of the unit above the unit our clients were buying and the association. There was some work that needed to be done that had temporarily been fixed, but that the owner just didn't want to do, didn't want to pay for. It was going to cost thousands of dollars. And so they were balking at getting it done. The problem is the temporary fix wasn't going to last forever, and if it broke before they got a resolution that was satisfactory and solved the problem permanently, it was going to cause water incursion and ultimately damage to our client's unit.
Right.
So at the last minute, we were able to negotiate a $5,000 set aside in my client trust account to cover damage to the property if it were to happen before the permanent fix was done. And wouldn't you know it, the day after closing, that temporary fix
So unfortunately, pretty much everything, they had water in their condo and everything, but fortunately they had you to recognize that, to see it, and to find the solution. Literally, I think it was literally 2 days before closing.
I can't stop the water from coming in, but I can make sure you got money to fix the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty much, we set Patrick here, where we set an escrow account, put money on the side, and honestly, I think we're still waiting on that. So it still hasn't resolved completely, but we have the money to fix it. So
we're gonna sort it out with the seller's money, not our client's money.
Yeah, absolutely, very important. Great. I think we reviewed here a couple of very important things. First of all, get an attorney when you going through a real estate transaction, buying, selling, and I think we went into buyer and sellers, quite helpful. And you know, I wouldn't go any other way. If you still think you don't need an attorney, give Patrick a call, and he will make sure we will make sure he's on your side. Patrick, thank you very much for being today.
Oh, man.
Thank you. And thank you.
Guy.
Yeah, and again, if you do need an attorney or if you do need a real estate agent for buying or selling, please give me a call, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Keep it warm out there, and we'll be here. Thank you, everyone.